Tribe, Book 2, Todd Mills Mystery. Author, R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher, Scrib Pub, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 16. Fully clothed, Rick sat on his hotel bed, the pillows cushioned against the wooden headboard for support. His Bible cracked open, staring down at the pages before him. He saw messages and entire verses that he'd underlined, as well as his own comments and interpretations that he'd written in the margins. But tonight he hadn't been able to read a word in over 30 minutes. Instead of visualizing the miracles of Jehovah in his mind's eye, Rick was visualizing all the horrendous possibilities. Where in the name of heaven was Paul, and what could possibly be taking him so long? Maybe they'd done this all wrong. Maybe Rick wondered he shouldn't have allowed Paul to go off on his own. Paul was supposed to just check out the house, and if he thought it safe, do his little business with the telephone lines. All that shouldn't take so very long. Yet here Paul had been gone for almost 4 hours. 4 hours! Rick shook his head. He should have called by now, if there were any problems. If Paul got to the house and thought the situation was different, if he detected that the child wasn't there, if he spotted Zeb himself, if the authorities were around, Paul was supposed to slip away and call Rick immediately. But he hadn't phoned, which led Rick to only one possible conclusion. There'd been trouble. Rick knew it. They should have equipped Paul with a cellular phone, which would have allowed him to call Rick at even the hint of a problem. Always security conscious, however, Paul wouldn't allow it. Wireless phones weren't secure, he insisted. A conversation could be taped for too easily. Dear Jehovah, he prayed, please don't let the police be involved. That would only complicate things to a horrendous degree, not only for his granddaughter, but also for the congregation. What if the local police or the FBI stepped in and began to investigate things? The publicity would be awful. Lawyers would come out of the woodwork. The issue would probably go to court. Little Ribka could easily be taken from all of them and placed in a foster home, which would be the worst possible thing for his family. Or was Paul simply detained by the roads? Oh, Lord, it was the lesser of two evils, but Paul could easily be in some ditch, or he could easily have been sideswiped on these slippery roads and taken to a hospital. Rick slammed shut his Bible, jumped off the bed, and went to the window. Pulling aside the curtain, he peered into the parking lot. A blanket of white covered all the cars, antennas poking out here and there. No movement. Glancing at the lamppost, he saw thick clouds of snow billowing in the light. Pressing closer to the window, he saw the highway. The traffic was much lighter than before. The cars progressing slowly, but they were moving, and there were 2 plows, huge orange trucks, that were clearing and salting the roads. Maybe there was hope, yet that Paul would return safely. His stomach growled, for on top of everything, he was famished. He hadn't eaten since lunch. He should have gone down to the restaurant. When Paul first left, an hour after that, Rick should have ordered room service. Now, though, Rick couldn't do either. He certainly couldn't leave the room, not even for a minute, and he most definitely didn't want to tie up the phone. What if Paul called? What if he had but 1 quarter? Lord, watch over them, he muttered, turning away from the window. He walked across the room, running his hand along the top of the dresser, then up and across the television set. He couldn't give up here in this northern city. It wasn't just the snow nor the cold. It was the lack of faith. An hour ago, he turned on the TV but hadn't been able to find even a single minister. That was a sign, of course, of just how lost these souls were up in this northern prairie. They were so blind to their woes that they weren't even reaching out. But there wasn't much Rick could do about it. God's true church was prophesied to be small and persecuted, and the congregation was just that, small, with slightly over 20 families and not even 100 members total, and ever fearful as well that government forces would descend upon them and wipe them out. So not only did the congregation not have the millions and millions of dollars it would take to start something like one of those cable Bible shows, such aggressive proselytizing wasn't part of their mission. No, the destiny of the congregation was to be small and inward, focused solely on Jehovah and his true mission for them. Rick walked into the bathroom, flipped a switch, and recoiled from the blinding light. Then he stood there staring at himself. Gray pants, white shirt untucked, The top 3 buttons open, the red and blue striped tie long gone, and the face. He stared at himself. Martha was right. He looked awful. So tired. His hair had started to gray just 3 years ago, and already his sideburns were a bright white. And the top? Well, never mind about that. His front hairline had receded several inches, actually. It was pretty thin all the way back. Okay, so he didn't look the greatest. Martha was right. No wonder some people assumed he was over 50. Of course, the extra weight didn't help either. He pinched himself at the waist. There was a good 25 pounds extra there. Hard to believe, he thought, staring at himself. Somewhere inside this figure was the skinny kid with the eager smile. But enough of that. As written in Proverbs 31, favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. Then again, he thought, hitting the light switch and plunging the bathroom into darkness. Those long-gone frivolous days were the stupid days. He'd wasted so much time, did such heinous things, until he'd found the Lord, our Father, and now he had so much to work for, so much to accomplish. If he was looking older, it was because he was pushing himself, reaching, striving. The power of Jehovah, the Word of God, the Son, his family, the congregation. These were his duties. He was a leader, a valued one at that, all of which was more than the vanity of Martha. She'd been so weak, so fragile. No wonder she'd fled. No spine, no vision, no devotion. He, on the other hand, was strong, determined with the Word of God the Father and the work of God the Son. He had been saved. Yes, he had to be focused. He looked directly at himself in the mirror and muttered, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." James chapter 1, verse 8. Heading back to the bed in his Bible, Rick glanced at his watch. This was absolutely ghastly. Where in the world was Paul? Seating himself, he cracked open his Bible and shook his head. This couldn't be happening. His stomach hurt, but it was worry that was eating him now, not hunger. Was Paul stuck in the snow? Stuck in jail? A heavy hand pounded on the door. In response, Rick spun around and called, "Paul?" He leapt off the bed and charged across the room. As he started to twist the lock, he suddenly stopped. The authorities. "Paul, is that you?" "Yeah," came the mumbled reply. Rick ripped open the door, only to find the heavy figure slumped against the door jamb, one hand pressed to his ear. Snow was melting on his head, his shoulders, and Rick grabbed Paul by the arm. "My God in heaven, what happened?" he demanded, and then looked up and down the hallway. "No one followed you here, did they?" Paul shook his head, then lowered his hand, exposing a broad, raw gash over his ear and across his cheek. His hair was twisted and matted with dark blood, and he tried to take a step back, but stumbled. "What happened?" exclaimed Rick, steadying the other man. "Was it the car? Were you in an accident?" "No." As quickly as he could, Rick slammed shut the door, bolted it tightly, and demanded, "Did something happen at the house?" Paul started to talk, but his words dissolved into a mumbled mess. Rick led him to the bed, where he seated him. Studying the injured man, Rick appraised the bleeding, swollen cuts, then hurried into the bathroom and turned on the hot water in the sink. Grabbing one of the white hotel towels, he soaked it, wrung it out, and returned to Paul. Rick begged, "Tell me nothing's happened to Ripka. Tell me our little baby is okay." Is she okay?" "I think so." "What do you mean, you think so? Did you see her? Did you see my little Ripka?" Paul took the towel, pressed it against the side of his head, and nodded. "She's not hurt. She's all right." Paul's head slowly went up and down again. "Then where is she? What happened?" The heavy-set man lifted the towel from his head and studied the brilliant scarlet stain left by his wound. "Oh, crap. I hate getting hit like that. I should have known better." "Hit? Hit? Tell me what happened," demanded Rick. "I went in." "The house?" "Through the basement. And I had her." "Ripka?" Nodding, he held the damp towel to his head and winced in pain. But there was a kind of what? Kind of a problem inside. Some other guy. First it was just her, the woman, but then this other guy came along and he shrugged. But I got her. I had the baby, had her right in my arms, and then I was all the way to my car. I was just putting her in when shit. No one's ever done anything like this to me. No one's ever dared. Someone attacked you? What are you, a rocket scientist? Paul closed his eyes and moaned in pain. Shit. The roads are so bad I didn't think I was going to make it back here. It took me an hour and a half. Rick's rage was soaring and he grabbed Paul by the shoulders, shook him and shouted, What happened? What did this to you? Your son, the bastard. He jumped me and took the baby, snapped Paul, glaring up at Rick. I'm gonna kill him. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.